right, first game starting off on backwater. Like you said, Nate, we're going to be starting down here in the bottom right, already opening up with a couple of these buildings. It's our red Zerg player. Put your hands together for Stephano.
And he faces off against the strongest player outside of Korea at StarCraft 2. He is Serral.
Okay, well, with Stephano opening up with a little bit of that early aggression, I should say a lot of that early aggression with a 13-12 like this, Stephano is saying, you know what, I know that I probably have to win one of those kind of more solid games against someone like Serral, but I don't need to do it immediately. I can still try and throw out some early aggression, because this also is playing into a best of 5, right? You can try and put on some aggression and say, look, I'm not afraid to get involved with the Ling-Baneling wars with you. I'm not afraid to get into that micro.
What he's doing is saying, you are going to be thinking about this for the rest of the series now. No matter what happens, he's going to have to be aware of this. In the words of a European StarCraft commentator who isn't here, but I love very much, my boy Roddy. I like it, Fear Dragon. He's putting the fear of the cheese into him for the rest of the series. He's going to be hyper aware that Stephano might throw builds like this at him. And, well, if you're going to beat Serral, this is going to be one of the ways that you have to do it. You got to catch him off guard. Like I said earlier, I don't think you can do this 3 games in a row, even if you do win those first 2. So he'll have to mix it up at some point. But if he can bop him early and get that first win right off the bat, that'll be a really, really nice, I think, mental reliever for him to say that, yeah, I can do this. He's not actually untouchable. You know, he doesn't have all the stones. He's not unkillable yet.
Yeah, worth noting that Serral did not see these Lings until just now, because Stephano did a great job of avoiding those Overlords. Now the Lings are coming across the map, are getting scattered by those Overlords, but you can already see Serral is losing a drone here and there. He's going to lose another one. His Spine Crawlers have been delayed, and remember, he went for a Hatch Gas Pool, so this is one of the harder openings to hold off early 13-12 aggression with.
He's got Banelings done already, too, so as the Lings come in, if he can get on top of that Spine Crawler and prevent it from finishing, that is going to be huge, as that is such an important part of the defense to help focus down those Banelings. The Queen is trying to get the shot off, not able to pick it off just yet. The Lings are trying to go in, gets the Queen with his Lings. The other Queen's coming down from the main base. That Spine Crawler does look like it's going to be able to finish up, though. The reinforcements are coming in for Stephano. That Baneling is going to get surrounded and canceled.
Indeed it will. And Serral now having that Spine Crawler up, sure, it's at half hit points, but it still is going to be very useful in target firing down any of those Banelings. Stephano is starting to run out of steam. He's down 4 workers. He's down an army supply, and while this started looking like it was going pretty well for Stephano, Serral just rallies forward and manages to get into a really good position.
Yeah. So here we go with the Banelings coming in. Now that Spine Crawler did take a lot of damage while it was building. The Queen will most likely have to have that transfuse saved for it. Well-timed Baneling detonation could get some serious work done, but at the end of it all, we have a half-complete hatchery for Stephano back home. And the drone count, very similar, but Serral, he's got a lot of Lings, got a lot to work with now. And those Banelings, he's going to run right past him on his way over to Stephano's base. Will he be able to hold on to this expansion that he's going for? I'm not so sure, Ravi.
I mean, the real problem right now, Nate, is that is the last Baneling that's out of the map. Another Baneling is being morphed in, but Serral is doing a great job picking off these Banelings one by one. 2 more starting up. This one Baneling needs to get a good connection, or at least force Serral back for a bit, because Serral is droning behind this. It's not continued aggression, but if Serral's able to pick off that Baneling, he can start pouncing a bit more.
Yeah, it's so dangerous. I mean, this is ZvZ in a nutshell. It's these very, very delicate maneuvers back and forth, trying to pick off the Baneling with 1 or 2 Lings, or bait the Baneling into blowing up on 1 or 2 Lings. And as soon as you see that window to jump in on top of the hatchery, you go for it. But Serral, he's been pushing out a good number of drones because Stephano has been on the defensive, and because Serral still has that Spine Crawler back home. He has a position he can retreat to. He doesn't have to just fight Ling v Ling and be outnumbered. And Serral's also going to use this opportunity to wall up. He's going to move the Spine Crawler forward. He's got the Roadshorn, the Evolution Chamber. Could add something else or just try to use those Queens to block the positioning. And this shouldn't really be breakable by Stephano. So he's just going to go up to Lair Tech and just drone up from behind for a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of makes sense for Stephano to just try and get up some sort of tech, just because you know once your opponent has that wall in, it's pretty difficult to do too much, because unlike a lot of other maps, you have a super easy to take third base when you go for that wall in. This isn't, you know, a Catalyst or something else crazy like that, where you really struggle to get up that third after going for that.
Yeah, now this map has that purse third. You know, you've just got it hanging off to the side there. Very easy to defend. These Banelings, the Queens are trying to focus them down. Transfuse is being popped, and that's going to allow him to push this back. Little cheeky maneuvering there. Not too shabby by Serral.
Yeah, Serral doing a great job. He had a drone lead for quite a bit of time, and it's starting to fall off a little bit as Stephano has been able to drone up himself, but Stephano is going up for that very quick Spire.
So, yeah, he's been behind in like this little income bit since the start of this game. So he's saying, well, I won't need as many drones because I only need to saturate my gas geysers. So the mineral income difference won't hurt me as badly. Some defensive Banes here pushing these Lings away. And he's saying, well, if you're going for Roaches with upgrades, really what this comes down to is the lair is not going to be done in time for him to go for one of those giant Roach speed attacks. And if he does, then the Mutas will be popping out right as those Roaches are coming across the map. So it's a delicate balance, really, because we've seen it many times. We actually saw it in a few of these matches, I think, in the ZvZs in the earlier Challenger rounds, where we had that interaction between the getting the Mutas out just before Roaches hit. But I think without the lair being really fast for Serral, he hasn't started Roach speed yet either. That upgrade is so important to making a big push like this. And if his Overseer sees the Spire, he might be saying, well, I don't know if I've actually got that opportunity anymore.
Yeah, he hasn't seen it just yet, but it looks like that Overseer is pretty much guaranteed to get the scout out on that Spire now as he confirms it. But I do wonder, he had gotten a Ling into the natural and into the third. He may have said, you only have Lings. I don't see any Evo Chambers. I don't see a Roach Warren. Maybe you have it into the main base. But he's going to have those Spore Crawlers dropping down now, which is going to be in time to help defend. It's just kind of hard to ever move out for a little bit now.
Yeah. Well, you know, the Mutas do have a nice bit of utility regardless of where this goes. Even though there's not any attack coming, you can always try to pick off a few workers here and there, but you also prevent the opponent from being able to have their Overlords out on the map. We see that Serral's already brought his Overlords. He's condensing them all onto the Spore Crawlers that he's added. So he'll just lose this one by the fourth base as he makes that Hydra transition. Everything Serral does is so smooth. He's been very on top of everything that's going on. He still has his Lings hidden at the bottom. And all things said and done, because these Mutas aren't going to do critical damage, or they don't seem like they will, he's just ahead on upgrades. He's got his Roach speed coming in barely later, but his +2 attack is on the way. He's got +1 Carapace. And all you gotta do is micro the weak Mutas back. There's not a tremendous amount of anti-air here yet. Even just killing this Extractor would be really nice.
Yeah, but he unfortunately is not able to do so, as Serral has plenty of transfuses left available. Transfuses that Extractor up a little bit more, and so far the Mutas have not really gotten too much value outside of just ensuring that Serral can't immediately push across the map. But with the Hydras coming out, Serral has a lot of Roaches. He's gonna have superior upgrades like you mentioned before, and he's gonna have the ability to take on those Mutas in a head-to-head fight, because Mutas are not made for fighting directly against Hydras, Nate.
No. Yeah, the Mutas will never stand up in a head-to-head engagement. I like just, you know, whacking the Extractors, reducing that gas income a little bit, and especially considering that Stephano invests, you know, of course you have a lot of gas in that Mutalisk count. The 7 that he made originally pushes back a lot, so you want to get as much value out of that as possible. And he's making his way into some Roaches. He's getting Baneling speed. So that tells me that Stephano wants to try maybe just throw a big wall of Banes into the Hydras. And if you can get that, that is huge. Banelings can be cost effective even against Roaches in certain cases. But Serral's like, I'm going straight to the Lurker Den. I'm not really married to the idea of just building like Roaches or just building Roach Hydra. And we've seen so many times before that those Lurkers on a map like this, where you have all of these choke points and these cliffs in the center, I think as Tasteless so eloquently called it last night, these valleous areas on this map, you have to be very cautious of those area of effect damage units like the Lurkers. Trying to push up one of those ramps, even into just a handful of Lurkers supporting an army, is just a fool's errand. You're not getting anywhere with that.
Okay, I like that Stephano's also already started out that +2 missile attack. He's not going to have the Carapace upgrade advantage that Serral has, but he's not that far behind on missile attack upgrade. And it's going to take getting up Hive to get a +3 weapons for Serral. So eventually that kind of upgrade advantage is going to start to dissipate. Stephano, though, maybe pushing in a little bit before he has +2 missile attack and kind of giving Serral a bit of that advantage.
Yeah.
All right.
He's just looking for the opportunity because he has the biles that he can use to try and mess with the position. If the Banes could get onto the Hydras, it would be really huge. They're trying to run through between a few of these forces, but they're not going to get completely on top of this. And Serral is just going to say, yeah, you better back that up. I've got a real nice army here with the transfuses. And the good pre-spread by Serral as well. He was able to fight with all of his units at once. These Mutas went for the backstab in the meantime. And it looks like maybe they'll get the extractor and a handful of drones as that army retreats. So he's trying to get something for his money.
Yeah, maybe even just trying to pull Serral back a little bit, but Serral's able to push that back with just the queens alone. And like you said, he gets bits and pieces of damage, but he lost a decent chunk of his army there, I feel like. And now +2 missile attack is going to be finishing up. So Stephano in a bit of a weird spot. Yeah. He's got those Banelings, but like you said, he didn't make connections with the Hydras there. He made connections with Roaches, which is
Stephano's army is just, you have 50 Roaches and 13 Banelings, but there's 5 Lurkers with +2 and that +1 Carapace. He's getting the +2 Carapace, but Roaches are going to have such a hard time versus this Lurker-based army because they have such little range. You have to get so close to this to be able to fight. I don't really know how Stephano's going to be able to stop this army from advancing. He gets one of those Lurkers, he steps forward and focuses down another one. As we see, these Roaches are getting brutalized. He doesn't even have Burrow to try and regenerate their health.
Oh god, Nate, they're all just in the yellow and orange. He's morphing in a couple more Banelings, but even the Banelings have a hard time with just 1 or 2 good Lurker shots. They're just going to disappear in a matter of seconds. The Roach counterattack from Stephano over by the 4th is doing some good damage. He's got more Roaches inside the natural. Serral is being occupied, but that means that Stephano has less Roaches on the defense.
Yeah, I mean, really, just a handful of Lurkers is so nice against an army, especially these Roaches are armored, taking so much bonus damage. Eventually, Stephano kills those, but actually, one of them is still alive in the back, but he lost the 4th base. He's got some Roaches split inside of the main, messing with Serral's economy, but can he actually stop the army at his door? No. GG. Serral takes the first game.
Really, really solidly done there by...
I'm very curious to see what Ilyes brings for map number 2 as we are going to a Biogenesis, the smallest map in the pool.
Yeah, I wonder how this made it through the vetoes, but we're going to be starting down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map. No surprises here with an early pool. Put your hands together for ENCE Esports' Serral.
As he faces off against his opponent, who'll be playing a little bit less cheesily this game in the red in the northwest. He's Stephano.
Well, with Serral going for the early pull, he did not get a gas geyser nade, so this can just lead into a normal hatchery and everything. And to be honest, on this map, I don't hate it as even just a sort of defensive way of opening up and putting some pressure on.
The thing is, this is exactly what Stephano's trying to do. He's doing something that's a little bit weird, and unless Serral somehow cancels that hatchery with these 6 lings he's building, Stephano's like, well, at least the super crazy aggression I did in game 1 kept you from playing an economic opening. So now the pressure is on Serral to do something. And it's not like it's a crazy discrepancy otherwise, but Stephano gets to do the build that he wants, and he's put Serral into this position where he kind of has to make something happen. He is adding another 2 lings to this, though. So Stephano might have to pull some drones down to that hatch to defend it since he won't have lings out anytime soon. And we do see the drones starting to move.
Okay.
Really, it's just going to come down to who can out-micro the other in this situation, because he just needs to buy time. The drones don't have to kill the lings. He just has to not lose the hatch and not lose his drones.
Yeah, he's doing a good job not losing any of the drones. He's even pulling back the weakened ones. Hatchery can be very low. You know what? A hatchery on 1 hit point still mines just as effectively, Nate.
Yeah, but that hatch is getting so low, and the drones are very low as well. Serral looks like he's going to get this block. So many of those drones in red health. 2 of them picked off. Catastrophic damage from the start here, but the Lings are out. The hatch goes down.
Wow, they even escape out through that little area between the minerals and the gas, but no, Stephano's not gonna have any of it. Broodlings, Lings, and drones join forces to pick off the remaining Lings, but at what cost, Nate?
And that's the pain of it, is Stephano. He got the hatch first when he wanted it, but could not get his forces out in time. And really, that also comes down to the map. Serral is saying this is one of those maps where I'm sure he's played enough games. He's like, you know what, the rush distance is so short that a drone pull will have to come much earlier than normal in order to deal with this. And we have the 2 queens, we have a spine on the way, these Lings coming over, not getting too much work done. And Serral, he's got the drone lead. More importantly, he has 2 hatcheries being injected. So his total ability to make units is significantly higher off of those 2 production structures compared to Stephano, who once again finds himself on the side of the start.
Yeah, it's important to note that neither of these players have gas geysers either, so it's hard for Stephano to say, oh, I'm going to get up Link speed, and you having gone for the early 12 pool, as we oftentimes see in ZvZs, you might lose your hatcher, you might take some damage, but you get to say, well, I'm going to have Zergling speed and I can put the pressure on. No, Stephano doesn't have that advantage. All he has is roughly the same number of workers as Serral, actually just sitting down a few, and going to be sitting down a lot more than a few in a second. And a hatchery that's a lot later. That's all he really has going for him.
Yeah, it's a tough situation to be in, and I think we're going to see, as Serral takes 2 geysers, I'd imagine Stephano's going to take 2 gases shortly so that he can make his way into roaches. Just 1 geyser feels a little odd. I don't know that he's going to want to play speedlings on a map this small. As he sacks these Lings to try and get a few drones. Did he get, I think he got 1 maybe there?
Yeah, I think he got 1 drone.
Yeah. I think this is just one of those games where the map is so small that those fast speedlings, like, the roaches don't have to go very far to move between the bases to defend them. And there are, you know, some twists and turns on this map, some rocks that you can knock down outside that natural to limit the pathways. I don't hate the roach play at all. I think Serral, what we're seeing out of him is very similar to the last game. He's like, all right, we've made it to this phase. We're past the point where you would be thinking about like Zergling, Baneling, even though like neither player opens speed. Like now he's like, okay, I've made it to roaches. So, you know, we're Gucci. And I'm just expecting him, he's just going to get his layers +2. He's going to do a similar sort of wind-up, go for the Hydralisk Den, maybe make his way into lurkers. And the pressure is on Stephano to do something about that. The layers are going to time out evenly, so he's not crazy far behind in tech. Really what he's missing is the drones and also
yeah,
his Roach Warren was a little bit later, yeah.
His Roach Warren was a little bit later.
Upgrade.
His upgrade
he did
is a
start
little
the
bit later.
upgrade, yeah. I was going to say the drones and the upgrade, but he did just start the upgrade.
Yeah, it's kind of deceptive because you can look, if you're newer to StarCraft, and say, oh, you know, 3 drones, that's not that big of a difference, right? But when that drone advantage has been 3 to 5 drones for the entire game, you start to see how much the income really starts to favor Serral and how much further ahead he can get in all these small ways. When you have a slightly faster Roach Warren, your Roach production begins faster. You have a slight little timing advantage with your upgrades, and if Serral is able to hit during that small little window, then he's going to have a pretty massive couple of advantages that really just start to add up quickly.
Yeah, I think those individual workers, it's like 50 some odd minerals a minute that they're able to mine.
Which goes into producing more workers that you could have.
You know, just even 3 workers for 5 minutes, you know, do the math. You've got a lot of extra minerals, and that's going straight into either more of your economy so that can escalate even further, or that's just a couple of extra roaches that determine who wins a fight later on. So it's all of these little bits add up over time in a huge way when you're playing StarCraft. We have the Overseer dropping a changeling. It's just going to scoot around Stephano's base saying, all right, is there a Spire this game? No.
Yeah.
So I'm just playing my game versus some guy who's going to try and play my game back at me. And I'm Serral, possibly one of the best players in the world. Well, is one of the best players in the world. I'm not worried about that. I just got to do your thing. Do your thing, boo. You're good.
Yeah, it's always a good feeling when you know that you were already ahead in the game and you see your opponents doing the exact same thing as you, because you just say, well, I'm just doing the exact same thing, but better. because all of my timings are going to be a little bit faster like we were talking about before. And I like what you were mentioning before as well. Serral could just kind of wait around. I think he might be waiting. What is he actually
Stephano's doing a better job this game, though, of keeping up with the upgrades, because Serral did not immediately, or at least did not immediately seem to start that +2 attack. Stephano's actually a bit closer on it now than they were on the +1. And Stephano's timed about the same at the +1 carapace. So all things said and done, this is a position that he can actually work with. He has a little bit less because that economy is just paying off from earlier for Serral, but now he's put himself in a spot where it will come down to a handful of trades that could bring him back into equilibrium, or, you know, give himself the edge a little bit later on. Another Roach Horn being added.
I think just maybe a little concerned about a big attack picking off that Roach Horn. That can, that's always an uncomfortable feeling in ZvZ when your opponent attacks and kills your Roach Horn.
If he wanted to go burrow, he already has Roach speed, so he could have gotten it at the front one.
Ooh.
Is he gonna use? No, he is getting burrow from the back.
Oh, okay. And the reason why he's getting the second Roach Horn, for those who are uncertain about this, is he wants to hide this. So you can see when these the kind of buildings are researching is kind of pulsating a little bit more. Harder to tell with the Zerg buildings, but he doesn't want Serral to see that at the front with any sort of scouts.
When Zerg buildings are upgrading, they wiggle and a jiggle. It's just a little, you know.
They're just dancing, man.
Yeah, it's basically what it looks like, undulating.
All right, well, I think Serral is starting to hit that point where he might be moving out relatively shortly, because +2 missile attack is going to be finishing up soon, +1 carapace is going to be finishing up soon, and unless he wants to wait until Hydras or something.
I go back to the size of this map. He gets the upgrade, and he can cross the map so fast with this army that for everything that we talked about in terms of Stephano bringing the upgrades close, he will end up fighting behind on upgrades if Serral forces the issue here by 2 upgrades. Carapace is about to finish, so it'll be 1 upgrade in a few moments, but every second that goes by here is very important for Stephano. He does not want to engage this yet, and Serral is pushing in. He's got that +2 attack advantage, which is so nice. The upgrades have not paid off for Stephano. He doesn't have his burrow. He doesn't have his burrow, but he can't run from the army or he's going to lose that base, and Serral is just blasting his way through. Stephano needs that +2 attack so badly.
Oh, he's trying his best to buy time, but Serral keeps getting these free pickoffs. The corrosive biles have also been really difficult, I think, for Stephano to deal with, because he cancels a bunch of the larvae.
He biles the eggs, preventing those units from morphing. And even though it's like as nice as that burrow is, there's an overseer on this army for Serral. He cannot run, he cannot hide. He can just move his roaches back until they die. Serral still maxed out, just marching across the map. I guess he has a backup Roach Horn.
He does have a backup Roach Horn, but
still, he's pretty dead.
Yeah, how long will it actually really last? Remember, Serral's already up 1-0 in this, so if he wins this game, that puts Stephano at gunpoint, and he has to win 3 games in a row versus Serral. I mean, can you imagine being in that situation and not fretting a little bit? That's a really uncomfortable spot.
Serral is so good. Serral is
absurd.
So good.
I mean, what do you even do versus this guy? Because
you lobby to region lock Finland. Like,
maybe
that's disgusting. He's just so
well. He needs to stop him at this point, because otherwise this is single elimination bracket for the playoffs. You don't get a chance in the losers bracket. You don't get to collect $200. You go straight to jail. But spawning up here, the top left-hand corner of the map, we have our blue Zerg player sitting up 2-0 and ready to move on to those semifinals with 1 more game win. It is Serral.
And his opponent in the bottom right, who needs to win 3 maps in a row. Confidence got to be a little bit shaky at this point. It is Stephano.
Now, Nate, as harsh as it is to say, I don't think that people are super surprised right now by the way that this series is going. A lot of people are kind of expecting this.
Stephano's a fan favorite. What should tell you everything you need to know is that anybody who follows StarCraft, everybody loves Stephano. But I mean, I think you'd be hard pressed to find anybody that's like, yeah, Stephano's going to beat Serral. And that should just say everything, because people like to be defensive. We like to fight over who we like, who we think's good, who's bad, you know. I think there's an argument to be made, for example, that like, I like you Thermal, I like him against Showtime, and I'm sure there's a bunch of people that'd be like, no, Showtime will win for sure, right? But in this matchup, no matter how much you love Stephano, Serral is for the time being, he's the GOAT of foreign StarCraft.
He is the bully of Europe right now.
He is destroying. You know, he was ramping up. He was building up that power level. A couple episodes long in 2017, and now he's coming real strong in 2018. He's styling on Stephano. He's making him look bad, and Stephano is doing a lot of things that are creative. He's being crafty. He's trying to use different things to his benefit, hiding the Roach Horn, going for the Spire, keeping the Mutas alive, going for the cheese, avoiding overlords. Like, he's doing a lot of things right. It's not like Stephano's just playing bad. This doesn't look like bad gameplay from Stephano. Serral is just like, yeah, hit me as hard as you can. It doesn't really do anything. And when I'm ready to kill you, I will. And that's been the story of these games.
It's, I think, the scariest thing. It's the big, intimidating person who just walks up to you, and you just don't know what you can do to stop him. You can run away, you can try and hide, but they just keep walking toward you slowly, and you just know that your impending doom is coming.
He's not going to chase. He's not going to run after you.
I mean, he's Thanos, basically. Yeah. Let's be real. Serral, at this point, he has all of his power gems, and he's ready to destroy half of Europe.
Yeah, he's looking. He's looking so good lately. I'm so excited for the next circuit event, just to see if Serral, you know, if he's gonna kind of follow Neeb's trajectory from last year and just be like, actually, I'm gonna win everything this year. You know, as NA's mightiest heroes will be playing out tomorrow, and we'll see what kind of shape they're looking in. But Serral's looking like he's in great shape today, unsurprisingly, as the #1 player in Europe should look. And it's something that we don't give enough players credit for when they are like this, is just not really have bad days from what it looks like. Serral seems to be, you know, the consistency is the most difficult thing to maintain when you're playing a game of StarCraft at an incredibly fast pace, really high APM. You know, the more actions you make, if you're someone who's prone to mistakes, you know, the more chance you're going to screw up. And Serral doesn't really screw up a whole lot. And that's just so nice. Some of these players that are so good have really been back and forth. When we look at guys like Showtime, for example, who has these marks of brilliance, and then he's like, he's here, and then he's there, he's not. Nerchio used to be on that level of consistency, but he's been a little bit on the shakier side as of late.
Yeah, I think it's a really important thing to know, because you go back to his ladder ranking, his MMR, and that's the thing about ranking up that high, is you have to remember, you have to win about 20 games for every loss that you have, because you're basically getting 1 to 3 MMR per win, and every loss you're losing somewhere between 20 to 40 MMR. It's you need to be insanely consistent. That's exactly what I think that kind of ladder ranking really shows from Serral.
Yeah. It's a tough game, StarCraft. I love seeing players that can just bring it this well every time. So this game, it's no shenanigans from either player. They're both just powering up. Stephano has said, I will play your game. He's building 14 drones right now. He's just like, I'm going crazy. I'm going crazy. I'm going to get my upgrades at a good pace. I'm going to get my lair when I want it. And I'm going to just, we're both just going to crank out drones. He's like, let's do this. Let us just stare at each other from across the plateau, power up, flex, and then do epic battle later on.
Ooh, decent shot over there from that Baneling. Manages to kill quite a few of Serral's lings, because Serral is focused on the Banelings on the other side of the map. Manages to net himself 4 drone kills, evening up those worker counts. But overall, just kind of small back and forth trades on either side. Stephano probably going to feel happy that he's able to get into kind of like the mid game without going into it with a deficit.
Yeah. This the big difference here is that just nothing happened at the start of the game, so they were both players able to just do what they want to do. And for Serral, that hasn't been an issue. We'll see if that macro runaway train keeps rolling along like we've had before. But for Stephano, you know, he has to bring everything out. I still think that he should later on. I think that he should go for the Roach Barrel play. I think that his ability to get around, we saw, you know, we talked about the little sparks on that backwater game where he was able to get good counter harass done. If he can just do that with a few roaches, maybe he doesn't need Burrow for that, but if he can just do something like that, distract, try to find something somewhere, as another, looks like Bailey run by hits that third base. That's going to be the key to success here. I still don't like going completely toe-to-toe with him. He's got to mix it up somewhere.
So far, it does seem kind of like he is just going toe-to-toe for the most part. But, well, okay, well, there is going to be that burrow play that you were talking about, Nate. So, you know, I actually really like this as well. I really do like this. And remember, Abiogenesis, not only is it a smaller map, but there weren't really a lot of different ways to attack your opponent from different angles. Whereas on this kind of map, there are so many different paths. You can send those roaches down the far left or the far right-hand side flanks, and it's a lot more difficult for someone like Serral to always be in position.
Yeah. So on this map, there's a good amount of winding paths that you can take to go around, but some of the rocks have been knocked down, which makes me, I'm just, you know, I'm trying to think about where those roaches are going to go, where they're going to path around when that burrow is done. The opportunity there is really big. And I'll also say that this is the furthest tech path furthest tech-wise that we got Stephano. He's made it to Hydralisks. I love lurkers in ZvZ. That like weird spinal cord looking lurker den while it's building is still freaking me out a little bit.
Yeah. one day it'll kind of become its good old self again, but Serral.
It's just Roach Ravager right now. Ravagers can be really strong from Stephano for trying to make it rain on the lurkers. If you know where they're positioned, you got to be careful. We've seen that late game drilling, the drilling claws upgrade for lurkers end up being a good counter to that as they can reposition super fast. So it's going to come down to control, positioning.
Oh. Serral, he's going to be moving forward with a handful of roaches on the front. No, he's not going to close in. He moves in with the Overseer, just going to get some confirmed scouting.
Now that Overseer gets the Contaminate now on that, and it's going to delay. I think it's like real time. Is it like 25 seconds, or is it actually still 30 in real time? So he's going to delay the +2 attack for a little bit, which means that if they were to fight, Serral would probably face roll because upgrades are that big of a deal in mirror matchups. But the Lurker Den is almost done. So Stephano's going to add a couple Spine Crawlers. He's getting an Infestation Pit. He's thinking about further down the line type tech. Maybe go for something like Vipers instead of trying to play Lurker versus Lurker and just use Blinding Clouds to advance.
Yeah, I think what Stephano's really going to be hoping for... No, he's going to go for the Lurker Den as well. So I guess he will go into Lurker versus Lurker. And yeah, the Blinding Clouds can be very, very helpful in those situations. It has sort of just been a bit of a standoff, though. Neither of these players really want to engage into the other one. We keep seeing Serral segmenting off small groups of roaches, but Stephano keeps finding these roaches, and then Serral just backs up before he really takes too much damage.
Yeah. A lot of spines being added by Serral as he's realizing he's going to have to deal with a substantial amount of harass heading his way. And there's that hive. So this is Stephano doing what he's trying to do best, is just to get units all over the place, get units all around. He's fighting in the middle, though. Serral has actually cornered the roaches that were burrowed on the right side of the map, so he's going to push him back. Now, +2 attack has finished for Stephano, but his army is so spread out. Serral is just rounding him up and knocking him down. 27 roaches on the way, but lurkers are finally coming in for Serral. Stephano needs to get some Vipers. He doesn't have anything else that's going to deal with the lurkers very well. His own lurker den is not ready yet either.
Yeah, and not only is his Lurker Den not ready, he's only got 4 Hydras even out on the map, so he's got to make sure those stay alive if he wants to make any Lurkers in the near future. He's able to push Serral back for now, but at the same time, Serral also has another massive counterattack at the bottom left-hand side. The Lurkers are also burrowed there. There are some Corrosive Biles landing on this. It looks like he's able to clean this up.
That's a really good flank, not allowing the Lurkers to make the most use of that line AoE damage. And on the right side, Stephano will be routed, but there's a big army on the left, and let's not forget that he can heal those roaches very quickly. And Stephano, okay, so the Hive Tech was not for the Vipers. He's going straight for the Adaptive Claws or whatever, those Lurker Speed Burrow upgrade, and that is going to allow him to pretty much instantly reposition those Lurkers, which is so nice. If your Lurkers can burrow faster than the other guys, it's kind of like... It's kind of like the old day where you were dropping tanks. It's whoever drops first wins, except yours burrow way faster. And that's a huge advantage to have in Zerg versus Zerg when you get up to these high lurker counts. Although there are quite a few lurkers on the map for Serral. We're looking at 7 versus 4 for Stephano.
Yeah, but like you said, the damage output of those lurkers is so absurdly high that even just being able to burrow them a second or 2 seconds earlier really does allow you to not only do a lot of damage to your opponent, but also mitigate a lot of the damage, because you just kill your opponent's units a lot faster, so those units aren't doing damage. Okay, but Stephano, he's able to burrow very, very quickly and reactively over here, and also make his way away from those lurkers of Serral, who's having a hard time kind of closing in on a nice spot.
This is where Stephano can find an opportunity. He's got the army over here. He's in this weird, crazy situation, but he manages to splinter off roaches to the other bases. He may have to sack the southwest base, but if he can get enough drones and enough damage on the other side of the map, it may all very well be worth it here. That hatchery is still alive, and Stephano is adding 5 more lurkers. They're both players getting +3 attack. This is a big moment right now as that Hydralisk Den comes under fire.
Oh, Stephano also evacuates his drones nice and early on, so he doesn't really lose all that many. In the meanwhile, Viper pulling up some of those lurkers and sniping them off nice and easy.
And he gets another one. He's looking, he still has enough energy, gets another one after that. The Hydralisk Den has been killed, so actually Serral can no longer build Hydralisks. He has to re-add that, which means that he can't really replenish the lurker count outside of the Hydras he already has. Does get another burrow off. I believe Serral has the Adaptive Talons upgrade now too. But with these Vipers coming in from behind, I guess he wishes he could get some energy, but if they can regen enough for even just 1 or 2 more ducks, that would be huge. Stephano, 25 Hydras on the way.
Man, but Stephano's doing so well this game. Those counterattacks have really pulled him back, and we see
love it.
A couple of these roaches still getting cleaned up over by the main base after so long. A couple of the roaches burrowed over the top right-hand base, but Stephano may have overextended a little bit in the center of the map. Loses quite a bit.
Yeah, those reinforcement units are able to pick off the Vipers coming out for Serral, allow him to turn the tides a little. Oh, well, outside of the overextension, because that 4th base is still alive for Serral. Well, there's still roaches over there, I think. The important thing here, or at least that I'll say, was that Stephano going for those burrow attacks, going for those counter attacks was really necessary and is one of the reasons why this game has gone so much better for him. And Serral still has a lot. There's still a lot of work to be done. He's gonna abduct the enemy Vipers. Not bad. Denying those blinding clouds. It's only one available for Serral, which means that he can't use the abducts and blinding clouds. He's going to have to really just use that one ability, as he's going to add 2 more Vipers now.
I think that just buys himself a lot of time, right? Because he lost that 4th base, so being able to get up that 4th base, and he tried to get up the center base, but Serral ended up denying that. So sniping off those Vipers just says, okay, you need to either remake those Vipers or at least gather up more energy on the last Viper you have. So I maybe have some time to get my army remaxed again after all those losses from earlier, and then I'll be ready to take a maxed out fight versus maxed out fight again.
Yeah, the Vipers are very important here. Abduct versus lurkers is insane. And really, if you get too many of them all clumped up together, then Blinding Cloud becomes really effective the same way that they are versus tanks. Even with the fast reposition, still gives your army time to close the gap. But Serral is going to return fire with that burrowed roach play, getting inside of that southwest base. Meanwhile, Stephano brings most of his army back over there. He's got a good chunk on the right side. 2 lurkers with that push heading towards the northeast base. So he's saying, I want to shut this down hard. And he should be able to do that with those few lurkers. There's not a whole lot here.
Stephano bleeding out quite a few units. In the meanwhile, he loses that a lot of health on that base as well. But Serral is moving forward to the rest of his units.
2 of those lurkers undetected, though, ripping apart those roaches. Burrows just in time.
But Stephano does still manage to kill off that top right-hand base with a small group of units he sent up there. He loses a lot in the process, and he might be losing this forward base as well.
Yeah, but looking back at the little bits, we have only +2 armor for Stephano, so his units are taking a little bit more damage than Serral's. Over a long game, that's going to add up. That +3 carapace has been done for some time now. Where's Stephano looking for his advantage? He has a lot of lurkers, up to 9 right now. Serral, he's only got 2. He's adding 4 more.
He's also got a lot more Vipers, I would say. Serral does, that is.
Yeah,
so
that's a good way to counter those lurkers.
Yeah, if he's able to use those to not only do blinding clouds, but also just the abducts we've been seeing earlier, pulling them out straight at those lurkers out of the ground, you can get some really nice pickoffs and just get some good value for your units. We'll see what Serral ends up picking and choosing. It may just sort of depend on the situation. I do feel like Serral has the better economy in this situation.
Yeah, having that forward base is nice. Having it saturated is really nice. This bottom left base is going to get picked off again. And then he's just going to burrow. and run on home. Now we have an attack on the right side, a lot of Hydras and a Lurker. And on the left side, there's burrowed Roaches. But those rocks were broken down, right? So Stephano can't actually get up there. He has to unburrow his Roaches. He has to try to kill those rocks. And now he's got some units committed on this right side that I'm not sure he's going to be able to get out. Ooh, he's on top of this, though.
Oh, Overseer finishes up just a little bit too late.
Just barely too late. Those Lurkers get nabbed. Really, for any of these forces trying to get away, I mean, the Roaches should be able to catch the Hydras, so really good play here by Serral. By the time the rocks are taken down, he's got an Overseer. These Roaches are not going to be able to get what they wanted. And here we can see Serral just, like, he's just playing too well. Like, really not making a lot of mistakes.
That is, I feel like, the ultimate cause of this situation, where Stephano looks like he's done some really great efforts. He's done some really nice attempts at harassment, and occasionally gets little bits and pieces of damage done, but he always ends up taking more damage because Serral, just like you said, he's not making many mistakes. He's so good. And he's already sitting up, again, 2-0. He just needs one more victory.
Yep, and now Serral's just going to push through and kill him. He's going to abduct all of the Lurkers. He sees all the ones that are morphing. Those will not be able to finish.
Plenty of Overseers to ensure he does not lose in any way, shape, or form. If he loses those Overseers, nothing can stop him as he moves on to the semifinals match. GG.